What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Healing in Hindsight, your no BS source for thriving with diabetes. And on today's episode, I have Michael from Glucose Gang Mike as my guest. I'm really excited for you guys to hear this episode. We have lots of laughs, lots of truth bombs, and it was a really great conversation. I truly enjoyed having Mike on. Thank you, Mike, for your time, your energy, and your perspective. It was an awesome conversation. We talk about everything from misconceptions to mental health, especially for men in the diabetic space, especially for Black men in the diabetic space. And I think that there's some beautiful thoughts from Mike that gives us all a little something to chew on when it comes to our mental health and how we move forward in taking care of ourselves amongst this diagnosis. So, here it is, me and Glucose Gang Mike. I hope you enjoy. You are listening to Healing in Hindsight, your no BS source for thriving with diabetes. What's up, guys? I'm Taylor Danielle, and it's my goal to help millennial diabetics like myself live an amazing life without your diagnosis getting in the way. I get it. I was diagnosed back in 2015 with type 2 diabetes, and it was really hard to find people around my age to understand how to travel, socialize, or even have meaningful relationships. But I feel like with a focus on mindset, perspective, and nutrition, together we can take back our health and our lives. Consider this the red table talk, but for diabetics. Minus the entanglements, though. So let's do it. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Tim.
How are you doing?
Great. I'm in a really good mood now. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, how are you?
My great-grandmother, she used to always ask how you're doing in a very unique way. She said, "Taylor, you yet holding on?" And your response should be, "I'm yet holding on." So I'm yet holding on. We'll go with that.
That's right. Like that.
You know, it's one of my favorites. Or my dad likes to say, "Partly cloudy." I'm all right, but it could be better. But I won't complain.
That's a vibe.
Yeah.
That's a vibe. Using the weather to kind of tell your mood. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I'll have to tell him that you appreciated that, because he always has these cool little analogies that he uses for things. I'm just like, and apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because I clearly use analogies in everything that I do now. Shout out to Dad when you listen back to this and edit this. We appreciate you.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have you on. I've been following you for a while and have been joining your lives to, the first time I did it was to just get perspective, because I'm a type 2 diabetic and you're type 1, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
correct.
It has been very interesting, especially speaking of my dad. He at the time started insulin. And so I really kind of used you guys to understand what insulin life is like. I know type 2 diabetics in a lot of spaces can either be on oral medication like myself, or can kind of take oral medication and have to do insulin. And so I found your lives really helpful. It just connected me with a lot of people. And on top of that, I was really happy. I think my first live that I saw was with you and Lexi, and that's how Lexi ended up on the show. And I'm just like,
shout out to Lexi.
Yes, shout out to Lexi.
That's my homegirl. Yes. That's my sister. I love her.
I ordered a bunch of stuff from her for my birthday. So I have the hat, the shirt. I even got the bracelet, because I'm terrible about wearing medical bracelets because they're ugly. So I appreciate that she has those. So Sugarless Society if you need some cool shit. But I was like so happy, because I'm like, Black people. just full transparency.
I
was so happy. I remember commenting that.
Where have you been all my life?
And I was like, I keep debating on changing the show Instagram with my face, because I think people are confused when they just see Healing in Hindsight. And I'm like, no, I'm Black. Like, I'm here too. Right? And then on top of that, it's Black diabetics, which I felt like I wasn't finding. And we're all in the same age group. So I'm like, finally, people who get it, people who still want to drink and still want to socialize and are trying to do the corporate thing or build your own business. And both of my parents are type 2. And when I was diagnosed, they tried to help me, but there were things that just didn't relate. And even my dad, he told me stuff that literally doesn't relate because I'm not a man. And I was just like, that's cool. I don't have those issues, but good to know in case
think I know what you're
Yeah.
referring to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was the season finale guest on my first season, and he's like, I can't believe I'm talking about sex with my daughter. And I'm like, me neither. I don't think we'd ever get here, but it's hilarious that we're talking about this because that's what it's like for guys. Didn't know, glad to know. So it's been an interesting thing. So with that being said, I just want to give you an opportunity just to introduce yourself, let people know what you're about, what your passions are, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do, I want to say thank you, Taylor, for bringing me on here.
Yeah.
I know I showed up a little bit late, and I want that to be known. And
he will not let this go, y'all. I tried to give him grace. He will not let it
go. Grace is good. Grace is good. I read somewhere they said ask for forgiveness, not, what is it? Ask for forgiveness, not, I'm blanking on the term, but I'm not ask, thank the person for their patience. Don't ask for forgiveness. That's what it was. Okay. So thank you for your patience.
Of course.
And I'm also asking for forgiveness. No. Hey, everybody. My name is Michael. On Instagram, you guys know me as the Glucose Gang Mike. Shout out to everybody in the Glucose Gang. Who am I? I'm a type 1 diabetic. I was diagnosed way back in the 99 and the 2000s. Yeah. We'll get into that later. But some of my hobbies, I live in North Carolina, in the Raleigh-Durham area specifically. And some of my hobbies just include reading, working out when I get the chance.
Right.
And working on Glucose Gang, of course. I'm really into personal finance as well. So I'm up on cryptocurrencies and NFTs at this point, and stocks and real estate and different things. I'm really into personal finance.
Oh, if you want to run my books any day, like I would gladly give that over because that's.
We can talk about it.
That's not my forte.
We can talk about it. We can definitely talk about it. I love it. I love it. What else do I do? I don't know. I honestly, with the pandemic, it's kind of like I've really more so just been working from home and just trying to stay in touch with what's going on in the world. And every now and then, if I get the urge to go out, I'll hop in my car and just drive.
Yeah.
Go out of my subway, make a left, and just keep going.
I feel that.
Subdivision.
I mean, I think we all.
Maybe I should check my.
I actually have. So I'm CGM life now for a month now. So I feel really cool.
Congrats.
To like, let me just scare myself real quick. I actually find myself doing random stuff of like, ooh, let me buy this thing and see what it does with my CGM. Like, I bought some Raisin Bran because I love cereal and I haven't found the right. I know they're coming up with so many, like there's a bunch of keto cereals and stuff like that that are supposed to fill that need, and they don't taste right because they're not crack full of sugar. So that's probably the problem. And so I bought some Raisin Bran and I'll eat it and then I'll scan. I'm like, dang, let me try it again just to be sure. So I keep scanning myself.
This thing might be off.
It's just not working. Let me try my old school meter, see if that makes it. Nope, still the same. Yep. Put the Raisin Bran down. You can't do it, kid. You can't do it. So it's definitely been a lot of fun. Well, I am really curious to know. So far I've been doing two things. With my non-diabetic guests, I ask them what's one health myth they want to bust. But with my diabetic guests, I actually want to know what's one misconception about being a diabetic, whether it's type 1 or anything else that you hear in the diabetic space, that you want people to know it's just not true. So stop asking, stop telling, whatever. What's one misconception that you just want to like stop the madness now?
Oh, man. I would say, I mean, the most basic one that I can think of, honestly, is that we as diabetics just can't eat carbs. Like we just can't have anything with sugar or anything with an excessive amount of sugar, which is the majority of things that you see in supermarkets. You know what I mean? Right. Soda, energy drinks, bread, you know what I mean? Most of the things that we eat pretty much have a decent amount of carbs in them, and carbs eventually break down into sugar. As for the people at home not listening, or for the people at home that don't understand, right? What I mean by sugar is just like carbs that break down into sugar that your body is then supposed to use. However, if you don't use that sugar, then your blood sugar can spike and it can affect your body overall.
Right.
But anyway, I would say, just the idea that we can eat pretty much whatever we want to. There is no if I want to go out here to this little local cupcake shop and order a dozen cupcakes and sit in my living room and eat each one and film it, I can do that as long as I have some insulin and I'm not sick from eating all of the sugar. But yeah, I think a lot of people think that I have friends and family that like I've went out with them and stuff, and they'll joke and, "Are you sure you're allowed to have that?" And I'm like,
Mind your
"Get out of
business."
here! Get out of here!"
Yeah, I feel that for sure. Because I think the main joke that I've heard is, "Oh my God, they just sat down a plate full of diabetes in front of me," and it's just like, yo, I'm right here, right? Like I'm right here. You know that, right? Like you ain't gotta say it. Like chill, because I think people don't realize how much of it's very individual. We definitely have common ground in like maybe the medication that we take or some of the tips and tricks and things like that. Because yes, to some degree we have to watch the carbs, but it depends on the person. It depends on the body. Some people, like my partner, he sheds carbs like it's nothing. Like not an ounce of fat on this man.
For sure.
It's unfair, but that's just how his body works. Whereas me, I can tolerate moderate carbs. I can't go crazy. And some people, it's like, hey, I got to keep it as low as possible because even too much, I'm through the roof. Clearly, Raisin Bran has too many carbs for me because it sends me through the roof. And I'm glad it wasn't Fruity Pebbles because I probably would die a little bit inside if I realized just how bad Fruity Pebbles was for me. I love cereal. It's so hard.
It's funny you say that, right? I remember recently I was joking with someone and they were asking me like, so how did you, I know you were diagnosed at such an early age or whatever and this and that. And they were like, what, I mean, how does it happen? And I was like, well, when I was 7, I remember very vividly climbing on top of the counter because I couldn't reach it. My mom had this, shout out to Mama Glucose. She had this, and Papa Glucose, but she had this big container full of sugar. You know what I mean? And my mom, that was just kind of what she did. She kind of placed the different sugars and like different things into containers. And I remember climbing up on the counter and opening the container, just dumping the sugar into my mouth. And I told them that's how I got type 1 diabetes. And they
Sir. Listen,
now listen, for everybody, of course I told them that was a joke. That was a terrible joke. Guys, if you're listening, that is not in any way, form, fashion, that is so far from the truth as far as how people are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. That is not, I repeat, that is not how I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Me eating sugar at 7 years old had absolutely nothing to do with me being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. But it is a funny like dinner joke. You know what I mean? Or when someone asks you, so.
I feel like everybody can imagine that, especially if you are, I'm pretty much the jokester in the family. And so, especially through sarcasm. Sarcasm is my favorite language. And so I feel like that would, I might steal that. I just might steal that from you and see how many faces go with it. Because not only that, I like dark humor, but I feel like I have to keep that in the confines of like my close friends and family. Because they're just like, dude, I'm like, I know, that's just how I feel some days. Like,
hey,
that's what it is.
It is what it is. Look, I'm the one with the chronic illness, not you.
Right.
So
at least I'm making light of it.
I can joke on it, right?
Right. I've earned this, okay? So speaking of dealing with your diagnosis and having to deal with these kind of questions, I'm curious as to how has it shaped your relationship with others, with your family, your friends, past relationships with partners, current relationship with partners? Like, what has shifted when you come in contact with people and your diagnosis?
Man, well, for me, I would say that my family is a lot more, when I was first diagnosed when I was younger, I'll say, they were a lot more apprehensive, a lot more cautious, I should say, with regards to my diabetes. And just like, I remember my brother taking me to the movies, my older brother, shout out to Aaron. And he would, you know what I mean? We'd be getting ready to go out or whatever. And this is like a big deal because I'm the youngest.
Yay, me too. Family. Shout out to the younger siblings causing all the trouble.
Mom and dad don't care about disciplining us because they've disciplined for years and they're tired of it. So we get the short, yes, that's us. So my anytime I got to spend with my older siblings is really special as a kid because they were also so much older than me.
Sure.
So it was always dope because I still do. I look up to my older brother. So I remember him taking me out or whatever, and we were walking out the door, and he was like, "Hey, hold on." He's like, "You got your insulin?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You got your finger thing?" I was like, "Yeah." You know what I mean? Like my prick stick, he was like, "Yeah, I got that." And just making sure that I had those things. My parents as well. My parents were definitely always kind of like, "Are you feeling okay? Have you checked your sugar? Is this good?" You know what I mean? Did you bolus for this pizza? My friends, I kind of hid my diagnosis for a long time, even from like my close friends. Now, the people that like I used to run around my neighborhood with and play basketball and shoot hoops and different things, they, I told them, but that was because I was around them so often.
Right.
So it was like, if I pass out or something, I need you to know it's not whatever else you think it is. It's just my diabetes. So they knew, but I didn't really get comfortable, so to speak, with my diabetes until like later on in life. And as far as like romantic relationships and all of my previous girlfriends, I think can attest to this. Not saying that there's a lot, but they can attest that I am pretty open with my diabetes. And it was just one of those things where I had to be upfront with them about it, or at least I felt like I did. And most of them, fortunately, all of them, they never wanted to stop dating me due to my diabetes or anything. But there's definitely been instances where we might have had to make a store run to go get some candy, or I don't know, you know what I mean? I might be over their house or something, and they might not have any type of candy, so I might have to drink syrup. Yeah, that was a fun experience. Talk about heartburn.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's drinking syrup. I don't recommend that to anybody, and that was a terrible experience. But
yeah,
that's kind of how my diabetes has shaped my relationships with family and friends. Just in general.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like especially a lot of the type 1 friends that I've made, it's a very solo journey despite the fact that you have family and friends around. And for me, it's a little different because I got to watch it through my parents. Now, I didn't fully grasp it because my mom was diagnosed first, and all I remember is that's when everything was sugar-free in the house. And I think it was around the time when like the sugar-free wave in general was coming out. And so all I knew is that when I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the jelly didn't taste right. Didn't know what it was, just knew it didn't taste right. And then my dad, I didn't know until I just saw him taking a lot of pills at one point. And I'm like, okay, are these vitamins? And I've never seen them, either of them check their blood sugar. I'd never seen their meters, nothing like that. I just knew with my mom because it was very open about it. But then with my dad, I was just like, why are you taking all these? Like, oh, it's my meds. Like, I'm a diabetic. I'm like, when the hell did that happen? Like, I get it's not like, oh, let's put up a banner as soon as I come home. I'm a diabetic. Woo. It was just weird because I just had no idea. And so I remember as I got closer to, I was diagnosed in 2015, I started having more conversations with my dad about it because I was like, oh, okay, both y'all got it. And I remember asking my mom, is this a thing in our family? She's like, yeah, like half your grandma's side of the family. I'm like, oh, okay, I should probably keep eyes out for this. This is all right. And so it was really interesting because it was there. It just, I didn't impose. I didn't ask a lot of questions because part of it felt like, is that insensitive to ask these type of questions, to wonder about this kind of stuff? And all I remember is like my mom, I know for type 2s, insulin sometimes feels like a threat. She went to a doctor's appointment and they were like, hey, if you don't get your numbers in check, we're gonna have to put you on insulin. And that was enough to send her in full mode of like low carb, low sugar, everything. And she came off half her meds because of it. And then same thing with my dad. He had just, life happened. He had been working a lot, traveling a lot, and they had to put him on insulin. And it felt kind of like, oh, bummer, versus like, this is a thing that's going to help you. But I feel like my dad's story, especially, like they have him on everything, the statin drugs, all kinds of stuff. And it's just like this one, I kind of out counters this one. And now I got to get put on this one. And to watch him really take control of that and be like, you know what, we're going to start getting some second opinions because y'all don't seem to really want me off of this stuff. You just keep adding more stuff and it's annoying. So it's really interesting to hear how those relationships form because it's something that is detrimental for you if you don't have those things versus kind of like it's around me, but I don't know. And now I feel like I'm the bigger advocate, part of because I started this platform, but really wanting my parents to see like, hey, it's not the end, and there's time for us to really gain some of that back, because there's so much more information out there now. And actually, when you were doing, is it the Freza insulin, where the inhalable ones? Because my dad
Shout
hates
out to
doing his.
Roberson.
Yes, I told him after
Yeah.
watching one of your lives, I said, hey, you need to check this out, they have inhalable insulin. He was like, what? Yeah, let me let me find out what this is about, because I am so overdoing this. He kind of
Sure.
sneaks off into the corner to do his shots, and he's also on a Trulicity shot, and that's that's the one that he's not a fan of. I'm actually on a shot now, and I felt a little weird about it, and then I felt really bad because I'm like, my type 1 friends have to do this all the time. Like stop bitching. Like,
wait, what, let me, hold on now. let me return the grace that you've given to me at the beginning. And let me say that just because we all have these different struggles and these different things doesn't mean that you not wanting to take a shot is not valid.
Yeah.
And I'm joking here because I know you're joking as well.
Yeah.
But like, it is true. Like, I don't think that we as people, I think a lot of times, just in general, outside of diabetes, we kind of look at our situation, and I might be driving down the street and see a homeless individual, and I might be thinking, man, like, it sucks that he's homeless and different things, and I wish that, there's something I could do to help him. I don't know where I was going with that analogy. My sugar is definitely going high. That was a bad analogy. Let me bring it back. Let me rewind. Okay.
Taking a shot or feeling weird about taking a shot.
You don't have to feel bad about taking a shot because again, that is your part of your plight.
Yeah.
And I want to say, don't ever feel like you have to compare your plight with somebody else's, because we all go through different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my struggles might not be your struggles, but that doesn't diminish my struggle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And vice versa. So I just wanted to say that. I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you're good. I think you bring up a valid point, because my doctor, I just saw an endocrinologist this year. I've never seen one in the almost 6 years that I've been diagnosed. My primary has been managing. The lack of information is really hard. And I will say it's because of my type 1 friends, who it makes sense that you would need to see an endocrinologist. Like, you have a hormone that is just non-existent, right? And so for those of us who are kind of in that murky gray area, we are immediately put on pills. And then you just change the pills, and then we change the pills again. And it isn't until you are pushed to the point of needing insulin. Now, I have heard of other type 2s in recent times being immediately put on insulin, depending on how bad. But a lot of times it's metformin. Start there and work your way up. And then I got glipizide added, and now apparently glipizide is kind of old school, so I got switched to Combiglize because I needed the higher metformin, but I needed the combo drug because my numbers were still too high, because diabetic morning wood is real. I don't know. And then my endocrinologist was like, oh no, scrap all that shit, we're gonna put you on Synjardy and Ozempic, and here's a shot, just stab yourself in the stomach, lose 40 pounds, you'll be good. I'm like, oh, okay,
all right,
that's a lot. Can we come back? Do I need to talk to my primary about this? Like, nah, I take over full control. Like, and I'm like, all right. And so the first time I did the shot, the needle actually isn't that bad. And I've actually found a way to, like, I don't even feel it. I got like 12 tattoos on top of that. So I'm just like, you'd think, like,
oh, you're fine.
I'm no stranger to needles, but I'm not applying it to myself most of the time, and fingers are easy. So it was just one of those things, like, all right, like having a hype session in the bathroom, like, you got to do this. Okay, I'm sweating. I got to calm down because now I'm getting hot. I'm going to pass out just because I'm freaking out. It's a mindset thing. Like, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. And then you do it and you're like, oh, yeah, I really am fine. This is so it's one of those things where you just, like, if it's something that you don't come across, you have no idea. And so, now, because it's only once a week, and so now 2 shots in, I'm like, oh, I figured it out. I actually just, like, hold my stomach up and I just kind of let it fall into the needle, and I'm like, hey, that works. I don't even have to think about it. Same thing when I did my sensor for the first time. I didn't realize the Freestyle sensor applicator was spring loaded, like your Lancet.
Yes.
So I'm thinking I actually have to press it into my arm. So same thing. I'm like, okay, it's okay, you can do it. And then I press it, and I didn't even feel it. And I'm like, oh, I should have watched videos of people applying this before I just completely freaked myself out for no reason, because it's I don't know. It's just those weird moments that you have with yourself. And I'm definitely doing an episode about comparing diabetic journeys because I definitely have seen, now that I'm learning about so much more, late onset type 1 and MODY and type 3C and all these, there's just so many types now. It's weird that it's easy, especially in the area of social media, to they look like they're doing well, and meeting people who have, especially type 2s, I reversed my type 2, and feeling defeated because it's like, okay, I've been at this 6 years, what the hell am I doing wrong? And just realizing it is truly a unique path for every single person, and you can't go crazy over what someone else is doing because it just may not work for you. I can't do keto. It ain't anything for me. It's never worked for me. Like, health, overabundance of healthy fats actually make my numbers climb. Go figure. But there's so many diabetic groups that I'm in where they're like, just do keto. And I'm like,
doesn't work.
Not the story for everybody. So can we please not shame people? Sometimes I'll see these groups, they'll post their meal and they're like, oh my God, you have way too many carbs in there. And it's just like, okay, can y'all not mob on these people? Like, geez, it's really intense. And so it really plagues on your mind. And so that's
it's the same thing with the cinnamon. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Same thing with the cinnamon
I put cinnamon on my drink because I like cinnamon, not because I'm trying to lower my blood sugar.
Listen, make sure you use some cinnamon, and you know what I mean? It'll help you with your diabetes. It's like there is not enough cinnamon in.
Have you seen those cinnamon challenges?
Wherever you can find cinnamon. And I did that challenge as a teenager. I remember that. I remember my same friends growing up. Side note, I remember us being in my friend's kitchen, and he had a large sink, and my one friend did the cinnamon challenge, and he almost died. And I remember seeing a big puff of cloud of cinnamon go into the air and him rushing to the sink, and then realizing the water is not going to help me swallow this cinnamon.
Oh my God.
It was a big mess. That's
I just feel like how many moms and grandmas are like beating the hell out of these people because do you know how expensive good quality cinnamon is? And you just wasted it. That's all I see. I could never, because as things go, my mom gets higher quality stuff, and it's just like, nah, fam, that ain't it. Yeah, I wish I would go in my mama's kitchen and do that. And then you blew it everywhere. Right. Better be cleaned up before I get home.
It was it's a fact.
Yo, it's crazy. Fact. Now, I speaking of mental health stuff, you are a huge advocate for mental health. And so I would truly love to understand, like, what challenges did you face growing up with this and how you worked through them, how you work through any mental health challenges now, and like the type of tools and resources that have been true clutch things to use to help you overcome these mental obstacles when it comes to your diagnosis.
Yeah, my biggest thing as related to diabetes and mental health has just been kind of wrapping my mind around the fact that this disease, like you said, affects our hormones, right? Specifically the insulin hormone, if I'm not mistaken. But it still affects our hormones. You know what I mean? And I've witnessed it myself. I've witnessed when my sugar's low, you know what I mean? I might be a little bit more reserved and less outgoing. I've witnessed when my sugar is high and I'm driving, for instance, I might get road rage really bad. I might really be pissed off that somebody cut me off when it's not that big of a deal. And I live in North Carolina, where it's an open carry state. So
for
my safety, listen, it's not that big of a deal. I should probably let him go on. All jokes aside, like, I think it's really important to understand that diabetes affects not only like what you eat and how much you use the restroom and different things, but also your mental health. And for me, it's important that I keep that at the forefront. You know what I mean? There's been times where I have been trying to run my Instagram and my business and make sure the Glucose Gang has everything that it needs as far as what guests I'm booking for a live or coming up with a new design and different things. And there are times where I feel burnt out. And I will have to mentally step away from social media or mentally step away or recalibrate the things. What am I watching? You know what I mean? Am I listening to something that might be a little bit more discouraging to me? You know what I mean? What am I surrounded? What am I taking in? just as a whole. You know what I mean? How can I kind of help my mental, you know what I mean, when I'm feeling down? A lot of times, and I'm going to do this next week, I get massages as
I've
frequently
never
as I
had
can.
one. I should do that.
What was
I've never had one. Never had a massage. It's kind of like how I get yelled at when I tell people I've never been to New Orleans. Everybody yells at you if they've been to New Orleans and you haven't. My friends do, and they're like, "Why haven't you been here?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I just haven't." Okay, like, yes, I want to drink in the street, all right, but I just haven't made it there. Okay, like, geez, leave me alone. So just know if you ever visit Texas and you say that, for some reason you get yelled at for not. But it's kind of the same with massages. You know, I'll be like, I've never gotten a massage. And it's something that I keep saying that I need to do. So
Well, listen.
Get a massage, people.
Yeah.
Get a massage.
It's not for everybody either. I know people that just don't like having other people give them a massage, so to speak, like random people. So I get that. However, I would be lying if I said that once I leave my masseuse, I don't feel just better, just physically, mentally. I feel more clear. I feel ready. You know what I mean, to move forward. So yeah, I say I get massages. Listen, kind of like however it is that you like to relax. You know what I mean, is good for your mental and my aspect. So like I know places that sell CBD bath bombs. You know what I mean? Listen, go ahead.
God bless just the marijuana plant in general. I don't care who hears it. THC, CBD, all of it. It's amazing. Stop playing with the nonsense with the war on drugs, psychedelics included.
Listen, it is a game changer. You know what I mean? Go ahead and turn on some music. Maybe get you a glass of wine. You know what I mean? Set the mood. Turn your phone off. Drop that bath bomb in. Watch it do its thing. I mean, it's so
I love a good bath.
Relaxing. The other thing that I do to kind of help my mental as it relates to diabetes is I got a therapist. So I was diagnosed when I was back in 1999, and now it's 2021. And that's never something that I had ever discussed with anybody. That's not something that I had ever really even thought about, because I've just been living with it for my whole life. And someone said to me one day, they were like, I think maybe you should go talk to, I think it was my mom. So maybe you should go talk to somebody about your diagnosis. I know that was something you never talked to, and something you never talked about. And I said, yeah. So I looked at a couple of different therapists in my area. I found one that I felt comfortable with, and it's the intake session. And I think I've told this story before, but it's the intake session, and he's just collecting small bits of information from me. What do you want to get out of this? Why did you want to come see me? And it's virtual, right? Because this was COVID. And so I'm telling him, I'm like, COVID, I just been laid off from my job, but I just found a new one. I was in a situationship. It was a lot of things. Yeah.
Entanglement.
Yeah. Jada Pinkett style. All that.
This is the diabetic red table time. Hold on.
So there was a lot of things going on in my life. And I told him, but one of the main things that I really wanted to discuss was just my diabetes. And again, I went in there with the intake session just expecting to kind of have him do the preliminary stuff. Okay, what's your name, date of birth, blah, blah, blah. Have you seen anything crazy?
Whatever. And again, I'm going in here with the mindset of, this is going to be a quick session. This is not really where we break down feelings and emotions and childhood trauma and different things. Boy, was I wrong. So he goes, do you feel sorry for that 7-year-old boy that was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes? And I'm not going to hold you up. I am an emotional person. I have no problem saying that. There's been times I have an emotional spirit. So when he said that to me, I mean, I broke down like a house of cards. You know what I mean? Everything, it's everywhere. So he said that to me, and I broke down. And because no one had ever framed it that way, it's not a conversation I'd ever had with somebody. And the truth was, I did. You know what I mean? I did feel sorry for 7-year-old Michael, who had been diagnosed with this autoimmune disease, and his life was about to change. And I felt sorry for myself because I felt like my potential had been robbed from me. I felt like all my life growing up, I always had people kind of telling me, you know what I mean? Oh, you're, you know what I mean? Every time we see you, you're getting taller, stronger. You know what I mean? Oh, you're so creative and smart and different things. And that was like my claim to fame as a kid. And then to have someone come and tell you, hey, you might not be able to utilize some of the gifts that you've been given naturally, it broke me down. But then my therapist went on to say, well, part of that 7-year-old child is still a piece of you. And now, back then, as a 28-year-old grown man, you've matured and grown into a 28-year-old survivor. You know what I mean? You're no longer a 7-year-old victim of diabetes. You're a survivor, and you can help other people get through this tough period. And that's when I knew I'll be giving my money to him every week. And it's paid dividends. You know what I mean? He's still my therapist to this day. I had a session with him this morning, and shout out to True Impact Therapy. And I mean, it does wonders, like mental health wise for me, as far as my therapy, because it's a way for me to get things off of my chest, whether that be frustrations, whether that be achievements, whether that be angst or anxiety around something. Here's someone who you can talk to consistently, and they will let you vent and yammer on without any type of comments or regards for what you're saying. But then he also does teach me different techniques as well to to kind of cope with different things as well. And that's another huge piece, because I feel like as well, therapists shouldn't just listen to you kind of vent and cope. You know what I mean? Anybody could do that. The thing that makes them different is they give you tools and trades and perspective to kind of handle these situations if they arise again, which oftentimes they do. And so that is a culmination of ways that I deal with the mental health aspects of my diabetes and just my life. Those are some of the ways that I'm able to cope. Also, of course, the obvious one as well is I'm a Black man in America. Hello.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, yo, I'm seeing people that look like me get shot and killed and put onto TV and different things, and I'm seeing all of these different things in my mind. It's taking all of these different images in. You know what I mean? And there was definitely has been some paranoia these past years, and still is.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Black man in America, it is important that I have an outlet. You know what I mean? Because my mental health has been skewed. I have seen things that probably have damaged my mental psyche, and just overall have had a negative impact on me mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And important to note that. So I would highly recommend anyone and everyone, if you feel like you need therapy, I would definitely go seek some help. I think the beauty of living in the times that we do is that stigma is kind of falling off regarding therapy.
Yeah.
And it's just important to keep your body healthy as well as your mental and all other aspects of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's kind of something that I mentioned in the Clubhouse room that I was in for other diabetics, is that there is something to be said about healthcare providers giving a bigger treatment plan that isn't just based off of numbers. They play a role, and I like to use my first endocrinology appointment as an example, because shout out to everything underscore endocrine in New York, where I really appreciate that he leads with the idea that it's not just about weight. Like, we need to end the weight stigma, right? And my point in mentioning that is that mental health needs to also be a part of the prescription plan, because Nobody can
Absolutely.
prepare you for the type of things that you're going to have to deal with when you're diagnosed with something like this. And especially as a child, that is something that you don't fully encompass of how big your world is changing. So definitely shout out to your therapist, because he immediately pushed you into inner child work. And that is something that I've done over the past year that has really made a huge difference in how I operate now. I've done it's like a visualization meditation where the person who led it kind of gave some talking points, and you're kind of digging into yourself and seeing who bubbles up and what age of you bubbles up. And for me, it was me when I was around 3 or 4. And I didn't talk. Sometimes your inner child will talk, sometimes they won't. I just smiled and pointed all the time. And what I kind of saw and understood is that I had over the years lost that innocence of, I just want to play. I just want to smile. I just want to be happy. I just want to run around, because the world beats you down in a way of that. And so remembering what that feels like, remembering what it felt like to be so stubborn that if I wanted to do something, or if I felt like this was fun for me, I'm gonna freaking do it. And
That's right.
there's no stopping me at this point. And there's even another exercise where you write a letter to that child. So you could write a letter to 7-year-old Michael, and you input everything, your hopes, your dreams. You're forgiving yourself. I'm so sorry that I didn't do this. I didn't protect you. I didn't do these things, because we carry a lot of that childhood like stuff with us. And we don't realize how much it affects us subconsciously until someone asks, do you feel sorry for 7-year-old Michael? You know what I mean? And so it's really beautiful, this type of work, and it needs to be more regular, more routine, especially for communities of color. I think you hit it right on the head of like, being Black in America is traumatizing, and there's not enough access for us to, you know what it's like. It used to be like, you don't talk about your problems, you don't.
Yeah.
Therapist, I used to want to be the kid. I'm super dramatic, okay? I was a theater kid. But those moments on TV where kids are just going off on their parents and letting out their emotions, and their parents are sitting by and be like, well, I didn't know you felt that way, Billy. That didn't happen in Black households. I'd have moments in my head where, like, let me see if
That's
I
a
can get away
fact.
with this, and I could push it with my mom, but I damn sure couldn't push it with my dad. Like, that's how you
No.
nip through the wall, right? But
Yeah.
now that we're older, I'm able to express my emotions a lot better. And my parents, even though we have still bumps, I don't feel held back by saying, this kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Not exactly how I meant it or how I want to take this, but I respect whatever it is that you have, because we're at a we're kind of at a disadvantage just as a community in general of, how do we talk about these things? How do we sit there and say, hey, can you not be insensitive and make these kind of jokes about what I'm eating or if I should eat or whatever? We weren't trained to do any of that. So neither were our parents, because our communities weren't allowed access to that. I mean, we're just now getting to the age where insurance companies are paying for mental health care. Like, how many times
Crazy.
people have to lose their minds and go shoot up a room to realize we should probably get to this early and make it accessible for everybody. It's sad, but it's true. And so I 100% am on the same page of like, everybody should have a therapist. Everybody. I've been seeing my lady for 2 years now, and it has been something that I got to thank my partner for that, because we went to couples therapy, which led to us needing to go see individual. And I used to think therapy was crazy. I had a bad experience when I was a kid, and it felt very much like 3 adults, my parents and the therapist, shaming me. Just, why do you
Yeah.
act up? Why do you do this? And I'm just shrinking in a corner of like, I can't really tell y'all how I feel, because I'm just going to go home and get bitched out again. Or it's, you're not really going to take me seriously.
Right.
And having to realize that that's not it. It's just meeting somebody who's willing to listen. And sometimes your close connections can't have that, because they have too many emotional ties to you that triggers them, and it's because they got their own work they need to do too. So I really am glad that you sought help. I'm really glad that it is doing wonders for you from so many avenues, because not enough of our Black men are doing it. And we need
And
y'all, and we need y'all sane. And we need you guys to be able to navigate and understand yourself as best as possible, because nobody's you. So if you don't get you, you can't expect anybody else to. And so I think it's absolutely wonderful that you're doing that.
one more quick thing I wanted to say. I'm proud of you as well. You know what I mean? It takes a strong person to, like you said, if you've already done something previously and it doesn't work out,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of shapes your view as far as future events and similar things that happen.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to experience that as a 3 or 4 year old and then decide as an adult, hey, I'm going to give this another shot and just give it a chance and see, you know what I mean? And go down this rabbit hole and see what happens. I also wanted to also say that, yeah, as a black man, it's important to have these avenues. And just as can we also just, I'm a black man, so that's the experience, and those are the things that you guys are hearing from me and seeing from me. But can we also point out the fact that as a generation, we have seen so much in our lifetime.
There's what's that episode of Rick and Morty where Summer's like, bitch, I get traumatized for breakfast. Like, that's us. That's us.
Facts.
That's us.
Facts. You know what I mean? 9/11, the Great Recession, 2020, like we have seen school shootings. I mean, I could go down the list, but I don't want to get depressed. You know what I mean? But we have, as a generation, have just witnessed and seen so much. Stagnant wages, cost of living going up. You know what I mean? College, a bachelor's degree not meaning what it did back in the day. Like, there is so much that as a generation, I think that it's good to talk to somebody about these things and really recognize and understand that although these things might not, you may have felt like they didn't directly affect you in some way, form, or fashion. You know what I mean? They do.
Yeah.
And they're always still in the back of your psyche. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for that. It is, I think, part of what I'm trying to build as my like separate kind of business line is walking people through that process, because there's plenty of people doing nutrition and fitness stuff all day long. I'd rather refer that out. I've met some great people for our community as diabetics who offer that. But I think I used to be a corporate trainer. So I'm used to developing people. I'm used to teaching people how to do their job and how to navigate to like soft skills for sometimes you're going to get on the phone and people are going to start yelling at you and you got to know how to diffuse the situation. And I learned that I'm kind of a master motivator in a sense of like being able to key into people and get them motivated to do what they need to do. Right. And I think in my mental health journey and honestly spiritual journey this past year, I've realized kind of this framework of like, yo, when I got my mind right, I immediately wanted to get my spirit right. Not even on some like if you believe in God or not. Just I immediately was willing to sit and meditate and immediately able to like tune into my intuition and my higher self to know that when I go and make decisions for myself, oh my God, my body is this vessel that, yes, has this condition, but every time that I do something that goes against helping it, I'm breaking my spirit down, which leads to breaking my mind down, which leads to this vicious cycle of, okay, now I'm back in therapy crying because I feel so defeated for doing this thing. And it's just this rotating thing. And so it's just like, I get it now. When I work on my mind, and I unlock these subconscious things, these beliefs, these environmental triggers, the societal programming, and I build up and understand what makes me operate that way, then I can really dig deeper into my higher senses and understand, oh, I've been trying to tell myself what the right direction is. I just didn't know how to listen to it because I was letting all of the negative things in my mind take over. And now I know how to meet that and realize, okay, when something negative comes up, it's a fear that's coming up for me that I don't know how to address, which means I need to lean into it. The more scared I am, that means I need to lean into it. And now I know how to use those simultaneously to make decisions. Now it's not so difficult to ignore the pizza if I know it's too late and I need to make sure that my numbers are okay because I'm going to feel really shitty in the morning if I do this. Now it's not so hard to give myself grace of like, hey, I'm out with my friends. I'm going to eat some ice cream. It's totally okay. But I'm not going to eat a gallon's worth. Right? It's so easy for me to make these decisions because I did the work to really connect with myself. And I think that is the thing that's missing for us is there's all these resources for other communities of getting to know yourself, being very mentally strong, being very spiritually strong. And for us, it's been so skewed because, well, it's been whitewashed. It's been, programmed from perspectives that aren't ours. It's been seen as sometimes witchcraft. Like shadow work actually isn't witchcraft. It means the stuff that you don't want people to see. That's what that means. It's the stuff that you do or deal with when you're alone by yourself and you don't want nobody to know about that. That's shadow work. And so we've had all of this stuff as a community that just dampens us, desensitizes us to really tuning in and understanding what roles we play. And so therapy is just the key opener for that. And I think we owe ourselves, like, we got to be absolute 100 with ourselves, because if we don't, that's how we end up lost and being swayed so easily into things that don't serve us. And so I really appreciate your advocacy in that, because that's similar realm of what I'd like to bring. It's just another perspective of, like, it doesn't have to be defeating simply because you were diagnosed. Like, there are ways to navigate that. And that kind of leads me to my next question, because along with your own mental health journey, you've been an advocate for other men. And so I'm curious as to how that's played a role in how you speak life into other men or other diabetic men. I know you have a male therapist, and I'm also curious if that's played a role in helping you, because sometimes we need someone to mirror that perspective. I know if I had a male therapist, I probably would still get some great insight out of it. But at the same time, he doesn't have the same body parts as me. So there's not always a way to understand. So I just would love your overall thoughts on those things.
And just to recap my overall thoughts on
your advocacy for mental health, specifically for diabetic men, and then how having a male therapist has kind of helped shape your mental health practice, if you will.
Yeah. I think you kind of hit the nail on the hammer there when you said that, like, he doesn't have the same parts as me. You know what I mean? I'm sure I would still get the things that I need to get out of a therapist that is a woman. But as you stated, it's we have different experiences. You know what I mean? As a man, not to say that my therapist's experience needs to be exactly the same as mine, because that's not even possible. But I do need them to really understand, and I do need certain things that I say and the emotions that I bring up, I need that to resonate with them. You know what I mean? Because it kind of defeats the purpose of therapy if I go into a therapy session and I'm sitting with therapist A, and therapist A goes, well, what do you mean by you felt like they were, you know what I mean? You felt like you were, I don't know. It's like, if there's certain cultural disconnects,
sure,
and I have to explain that cultural difference or the cultural significance of the things that I'm saying or the experience that I'm having, it kind of takes away from the whole aspect of what therapy is supposed to be. You know what I mean? And I also want to say, and I'll say this and then I'll get to your other question, that a lot of times in therapy, at least for me and my therapist, guys, let me say this live on this platform. A lot of times my therapy sessions aren't these prolific, profound, breakdown, Michael, let me tell you about your childhood trauma and this and that. A lot of times it's just me and him talking.
Yeah.
We'll be sitting there talking and laughing, and you know what I mean? It's like, he was talking earlier today about how, like, sometimes if we want to change people, it's just not possible. And then he got to talking about someone very special in his life, and he was like, I can't change that person if I wanted to, and that's just how they are. And we were just laughing about it. You know what I mean? So I also want to break that stigma as far as the idea of therapy being this every time you go into a session, it's a groundbreaking or a breakthrough. The truth of the matter is, a lot of times it's not, although it is still very, very beneficial, but a lot of times it's not me breaking down, crying, telling him about how shitty a week I had. As a man of color with diabetes, as men, we are taught to be strong, right? In every single situation. As a man, and this goes back for generations, right? If I think about my father is someone who worked in a factory the majority of his life, was around other men, sweaty, grueling, very, very tough work conditions, doing physical labor, working 12 to 14 hours a day to put food on the table for his family of 7. That's my blueprint. You know what I mean? However, and he is a man's man with no question, but you know, that also goes back to his father and the different things that he did and what we kind of consider as a man. In society, again, we as boys are taught growing up to be strong. You know what I mean? We're taught to be the leader. You know what I mean? Pick a strong color. You know what I mean? When as a man, as a boy, I can say this too. Typically, at least when I was growing up, I don't know about now, but back in the day, there was always 2 colors that you chose. You know what I mean? In any sport, game, what have you, and those 2 colors were red and blue. Now, what I know about color psychology is that blue is a more calm, but still a very strong, cold, you know what I mean? Kind of like silencing color, so to speak. Red is a more fiery, more emotional, more passionate color. These are the 2 colors that we as boys typically have to choose from, whether that be our clothes, our sneakers, our shoes, our sporting events, our sporting teams, our jerseys in gym class. Do you want to be on red team or do you want to be on the blue team?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That plays a role in the psychology as a man when you grow up. You know what I mean? I found myself often asking myself, what about the color green? You know what I mean? Which is why green is my favorite color these days. I said all that to say that the only 2 emotions that we are taught is really being courageous or being angry. In cartoons, in movies, in just popular culture, the classic hero story is always about a boy who is maybe not at quite his potential, but he might have a little bit of potential. And he goes through these different trials and challenges. And by the end of the movie, he's this great hero and he's courageous now and he's smart and he got the woman that he wanted and different things. He's typically also portrayed as someone who the only emotion that they typically show is anger. You know what I mean? Oh, I didn't get my challenge. Ugh, I'm frustrated. I'm gonna punch my hand through a wall.
Yeah.
And the realistic view of that is that is not. That's not a true picture of what a boy or a man should be. Going back to your original question, it's important that we as men highlight that and we know that it's okay to be human because before we're even men, we're human.
Yes.
And that means that encompasses all areas and all different types of emotions: happiness, anger, sadness, joy, peace, chaos. It's all encompassing. There's not 2 emotions that fit me at any given time or moment when things happen to me. There's a rush of different emotions, and it's important as men for us to understand and to really wrap our heads around the idea that we don't need to be most things in life are gray.
Yeah.
Life is not black and white. You know what I mean? It feels that way at times, but most of the time things are gray. And this is an extreme example, and I'll say this and then I'll let it go, but if you go beat my little brother up and he comes back to me, you know what I mean? Oh, and let me also say this really quickly. I'm sorry I keep going off.
No worries.
But the reason why we as men are taught not to show weakness is because as boys and just throughout, you know what I mean, history, it's like if you find a weakness in somebody, you can exploit that.
Yeah.
So if I know as a boy that, hey, if I talk about Johnny's haircut or whatever and he doesn't, I know that that's going to get to him, that's going to throw him off his game, that's going to make me look better to the other group of people. And so that's why we as men, as boys, are taught not to show weakness, because it can be exploited. People can then view you and allegedly take advantage of you. You know what I mean? Because they know that you have that weakness now. You've shown a chink in your armor. Now we can exploit it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I said all of that as well to say that we have to wrap our mind around the fact that as men, we're humans first, and that we have a host full of different emotions, and that it's okay to show those emotions. It doesn't make you less of a man to show your sensitive side. It doesn't make you less of a man to take a CBD bath bomb. You know what I mean? There is no real, especially not in 2021. We have stay-at-home dads now.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have even been a thought 40, 50 years ago. People would have looked at you crazy if you had been like, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad, I make YouTube videos. People would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You don't go to work?
Yeah.
You don't. Who provides for your family? My wife does. She makes more than me. What?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like our world is changing, and we have to adapt with the times. And it's just important to understand that we have emotions, and it's okay to show those emotions. It's okay to be who you are. The last thing I'll say regarding this is that if you are a real man, whatever that means to you, you understand that there are certain universal things that we as a collective group of men might look at another man and go, that is the quote unquote definition of what a real man is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect that nobody talks about is a real man knows that no matter what it is that who he is personally doesn't matter, but what matters is that he lives his life on his own terms.
Yeah.
That's the real definition of a real man. It doesn't matter what you do, who you are, your profession. If you are the breadwinner in your home, the definition of a real man is a man that lives life on his own terms. And of course, like I stated, again, there are some universal things I think that as a collective of men, we would look at and go, yeah, that probably would be the quote unquote definition of a man.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, a real man knows that he defines himself.
Yeah.
And that is the truth of being a man. And mental health, being self-aware and having mental health and talking about all of your emotions is another aspect of that.
So my last question for you that I still ask everybody is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a newly diagnosed diabetic?
One piece of advice I would give to a newly diagnosed diabetic. Find the diabetic community. The community will help you feel like you actually are not alone. The community will support you, encourage you. The community, if you ever run out of insurance. If you ever come off of your insurance and you are in a pinch and you don't have insulin or you don't have test supplies, there's someone out there who will send you supplies and insulin. The diabetic community, literally online and just locally, is such a blessing. So I would tell a newly diagnosed type 1 diabetic, find the community. Online would probably be the easiest. Just search for hashtag T1D and thank me later.
All right, Mike drops the mic on that. No pun intended. Very true, though. Very true. I will say it was a struggle when I was diagnosed to find the diabetic community, but I'm so glad that I dove back into searching, especially as I tried to build the show, because it has grown so much in so many different facets that it almost feels like you can't sneeze without running into another diabetic online who just has the same thing. And I've talked to especially other Black women where I'm like, dude, where were you 5 years ago when I needed you? Because it's like we were diagnosed around the same time, and you're like, how? So it's growing, and more of us are just banding together and supporting each other. So it is truly a beautiful community. So with that being said, if other people want to connect with you, if they want to find out what Glucose Gang is up to, do you have any offerings? I heard you have merch. I saw the shirt. So now I gotta figure out how I gotta get a shirt just for me. Y'all can figure out your own way. But how can people connect with you to make sure that they are always in the loop with what you are up to?
Yes. Okay. Let me get my promo voice right. You can find us you can find me on Instagram at Glucose Gang Mike, spelled just how it sounds. We have so much coming up for the Glucose Gang just in general. My website is currently being constructed. And that is like the Glucose Gang website where you can find the latest things going on in the community, as well as purchase merchandise. We will get you a shirt, Taylor, I promise. So that's coming soon. That is currently under construction. Meanwhile, you can catch me every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. UK time, Glucose Gang International. Shout out to all my UK folks. We are live every Thursday, like I said, at 7 p.m. with different guests. Sometimes I just go live and just talk about things going on in the community. Every Monday, you can catch us on Clubhouse with me and my wonderful co-host, Tiana Cooks. You can catch us Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we just have a chat called Everything But Diabetes, and we just talk. You know what I mean? The goal originally was to not talk about diabetes, but it always comes back to it. So
there's no way to not talk about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, Thursdays, Mondays, the website is being built. I got some other stuff in the works that I can't quite speak on yet, but we are working. There is a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the Glucose Gang, checking out the live, sharing links, communicating. We're going to be, once we do have the merchandise and everything up, we will be doing a giveaway, of course. And you guys can tap in and tune in. And yeah, thank you for rocking with me. Stay tuned. More to come.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. Okay, well, I promise not to stalk because that'll just seem creepy. On like, do you have any updates yet? Do you have any updates yet? But I will say, as someone who has watched your lives and been a part of the Clubhouse rooms, it's definitely worth it. The last Clubhouse room was so powerful. Jeez, it was so powerful, and that's why I chimed. I was like, "Ooh, let's all just take a collective breath for each other," because wow,
Yes.
it was just so amazing. So definitely make sure that you join the Clubhouse rooms. If anything, nobody can see you. You can just tune in and listen. And we've had so many beautiful voices come and share amazing stories. So that's one of my favorite rooms, honestly, and to the point where I thought I missed it.
No,
I really thought I missed it. I was like, I get so many Clubhouse notifications, but that's the one I always look for, and I'm just like, okay, I didn't miss it. Yay! Well, Michael, it has been extremely awesome to have you on the show. Lots of laughs. So many. I don't know how I'm gonna pick anything to like just give people a sneak peek of this episode because you said so many great things, and truly thank you for what you were doing in the community, especially for men, especially for Black men in general. Like, your contribution to this world really matters, and I need you to know that. It is amazing to see our generation just making so many waves in this atmosphere because shit be weird, and we just need to know we've got people that can keep us grounded. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your perspective. It's truly appreciated.
Taylor, thank you so much for having me on as a guest. Thank you for bridging the gap between diabetics. You know what I mean? This is big. Your platform is amazing. We got to get you on Glucose Gang Live, of course. Of course. And thank you so much for having me on. And like I said, I can't wait to see what you end up doing with this. This is going to be interesting.
You know, it's gonna be a wild ass ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'll make sure I have a drink when I watch this episode. I tell you that.
Absolutely. Make sure it's whiskey because it's only natural. Or tequila. Those are my two favorites. Either of those will be fine. Well, guys, we will catch you next time. Remember, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can tune in to listen to me and a friend. Thank you guys for your time. Yo, I think that's the most that I've laughed in an episode so far. Always great talking to Mike. Such great energy, such truthful things. There's so many good points within the episode, especially as we really deep dive into mental health and just working on ourselves as a whole, regardless of diagnosis, and the beauty that is now making mental health way more prominent in the spaces where we need it to be. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to check out Mike. He does shows every Monday on Clubhouse, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then every Thursday, he does a live at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And definitely, as someone who has not only joined the Clubhouse rooms, but also been a part of the lives, at least the audience, I think you'll really enjoy what he has to offer. He ensures that he brings all types of perspectives. They keep it real. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey getting to not only watch from the sidelines, but to get to interact with him as well. So be sure you follow him on Instagram. Be sure you follow him on Clubhouse and keep eyes out. He's got a lot of amazing things coming, and I can't wait to get my shirt. Did you see that shirt? See the Glucose Gang Mike shirt? I'm ready for a shirt. Anyways, thank you guys so much for your time, for your energy, and for all of the support that you give, not only to myself, but all of the guests who are devoting their time to spread the message of realizing that diabetes doesn't have to be the end of the world. We all thrive in our own ways.